their effects and their prevention strategies. The first one is physical hazard. Physical hazard. When you say physical hazard, a physical hazard is any factor in the environment that can cause harm to the human body, either with contact or without direct contact. So the ones that are categorized under with contact, we have an example being electricity and vibration. And then the ones that are without direct contact can be noise, heat, and then radiation. Physical hazards are common in workplaces, and then they are classified as occupational hazards or environmental hazards. Please, along the line, if you have any questions, then you kindly raise your hand. I see it, I call you, and then you ask your question. So, physical hazards, we say that they are the most common cause of workplace injuries. They are present in many industries, such as the construction industry, the manufacturing industry, mining industry, and healthcare industries. Once they are the most prevalent one, and then we are saying that they are ubiquitous, they are everywhere. If we don't manage them properly, then we can experience some repercussions. And then these repercussions includes injury, illness, and then reduced productivity. Some sources of physical hazards. We are saying that physical hazards arise from several conditions. These conditions may include the vibration, the radiation, heat and cold stress, and then noise itself. The question then is, how do we intend to control physical hazards? We are saying that with physical hazards, they are best controlled using engineering control measures. The key word is engineering control measures. So physical hazards are best controlled using engineering control measures. One may ask, which engineering control measures are we talking about? We are talking about machine guards, soundproofing, insulation, proper ventilation, and then safety barriers. Engineering controls, they actually aim to remove the hazard or reduce exposure rather than relying only on workers' behavior. So if you find it anywhere, just know that we are referring to engineering controls. Their aim is actually to reduce or remove what hazard and exposure rather than relying on workers' behavior. Second then is, how then do we identify this physical hazards in an organization? We are saying that organizations must carry out systemic hazard surveys to identify physical hazards. So the prospective organizational health and safety professionals amongst us, we have to actually make conscious effort to identify physical hazards, since we are seeing that it is the most common and prevalent ones we can see in our work setting. So in identifying physical hazards, we should actually conduct surveys regularly. We should conduct surveys regularly. We should inspections should be done during installation of equipment, right? There is a proverb. I have forgotten about it, but when I remember, I will tell you. It's just like we tackling the issue right from the onset, rather than allowing the issue to grow. Then we go back looking for the root cause of the problem. That is what this point is trying to say. So
Like,
inspection should be done
prevention is
during what
better than cure.
installation. Exactly, prevention is better than cure. Real CD. Thank you very much. Real CD. Thank you. Okay. So inspections must be carried out by properly trained persons. Not that we want to minimize costs, so we just go and bring anybody to actually conduct inspection. No. A properly trained what person or a health and safety committee or a professional, right? So yes, in each area should be consulted since they are familiar with daily what operations. And then all the hazards and potential risks must be documented and recorded. We shouldn't be like, okay, we've seen it, we are going to tackle it. No, it should be documented and then recorded so that even if you are not in charge of health and safety at the workplace again, the subsequent manager will actually see what you did and then also try to take an action on it. So, risk assessment and control. Risk assessment and control. We are saying that after the hazards have been identified, then we should assess the risk to determine which hazard can cause serious harm. Then we have to prioritize the hazard based on their severity and then their likelihood. So we've done our assessment. We have to go back to what the risk that the hazard is actually what posing. The hazards could be numerous. The physical hazards could be numerous in the company. However, their risk levels may certainly not be equal, right? We should remember that we are operating within limited resources, so there should be prioritization of which ones we are going to actually what tackle first based on their severity and their likelihood of what's happening. And then also we should implement control measures in order of importance. Why are we actually implementing control measures in their order of importance? So that we can eliminate the hazard, isolate the hazard, and then minimize the risk. Any questions up to this point? Any questions up to this point? Ebenezer, Agnes, Michael, Yvonne, Real City, Selena. Any questions? Okay. Are we on
No
the same
questions.
page?
Yes, sir. It's
Yes,
explainable.
sir.
So
Okay.
as we go, no questions, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's look at common examples of physical hazard. The common examples of physical hazards. We're talking about what? Electricity, sunlight, those working in the construction industry, sunlight, it poses as a form of physical, an example of physical hazard to them. That is why sometimes when I don't know when you are working in a construction setting and then it's very hot. If your director is so lenient, the director might tell you to actually go indoors so that when the rays are down, you can come back and then work. And then falls, falls. So back to the construction industry, sometimes we give them this head helmet, the helmet, so that it can protect them from falling objects. So it's that falling object, falling fall. So we are saying that measures to control the physical hazard. We have three main categorizations. There, we have three main categorizations. We have the administrative controls, the engineering controls, and the personal protective equipment. That's the PPE. So if you hear me say PPE, that is what I mean. Personal protective. If you find it anywhere, the keyword, three main categories, three main categories. Emanuela Adabla, please mute yourself. Emanuela Adabla. Emanuela, thank you very much. So control measures for physical hazards are actually grouped into three categories. We have the administrative controls, the engineering controls, and the personal protective equipment, PPE. We are saying that the employee should choose control measures that are most feasible, most effective, and most permanent. So, in as much as we have three major categorizations for controlling physical hazards, if you are the occupational health and safety manager of your company, you, you are not compelled to go by all the three. Circumstances differ, right? So you check the one that is most feasible, the one that is most effective, and then the one that, to your knowledge, would be the most permanent. Then you deploy or you actually implement that one in your company. Now let's take them one by one. So we go with the administrative control. Administrative controls involve management actions and then work arrangements aimed at reducing workers' exposure to hazards. The first one that we can talk about is training programs. So let's say you are the occupational health and safety manager for road construction. You bring people on board. Don't assume that they know all the safety protocols. In as much as you have given them all the safety equipment, right? You have to actually have some time to tell them that maybe the fallen object, this Ghanaian culture of negligence. Oh, it's not going to be any problem. Oh, I can work. That is what I have been doing. You are the what one responsible for health and safety. So the onus lies on you to train them. Tell them, let them know that these are the repercussions if you don't put on what the helmet. These are the repercussions if you don't put on the safety gloves. These are the repercussions if you don't put on what the safety boots and other stuff. And then also, so with that, so it's during the training program that you talk about all these things. Then you talk about the work procedure, the company policies concerning occupational health and safety. The company policies concerning occupational health and safety. They are saying that administrative controls do not remove hazard. They do not remove what the hazard entirely. However, they help to reduce what the risk of exposure, or they just help to remove what reduce exposure. So let's focus on some examples of administrative controls for physical hazard. So working away from noisy areas when possible. This is a clear example. Working away from noisy areas where possible. Too much noise poses risk to our eardrum. So it's always good that if you are the health and safety professional, you take note. Once your people are working and then you realize that the noise level is not conducive, you actually try to evacuate them from the place. So we move to the second one, which is the engineering controls. Any questions? Any questions? Yvonne, any questions? Okay, are we on the same page? Guys, feedback is key. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Michael, Emanuela,
Yes, sir.
Portia, you have a question. Your hands are up. I'm listening. Portia. Okay, I continue. So the second categorization, engineering controls. Engineering controls involve physical changes to the workplace to remove or reduce hazards. They protect the workers by removing the hazard, placing a barrier when between the worker and the hazard. Unlike administrative controls, we are saying that engineering controls do not depend on worker behavior. They do not depend on the worker's behavior. For example, insulating surfaces exposed to extreme heat, right? This one, it does not depend on the worker's what behavior. It's just about you changing the physical condition of the workplace. That is basically what the engineering controls are. So we are saying that engineering controls are usually more effective and long lasting than the administrative controls. And this is very relevant when you compare the two examples. The one that physically, the administrative one provide, let's say you actually giving them training, right? Their ability to comply or actually deploy whatever you are teaching them depends on their own behavior. When you tell them put on the helmet, they would tend to actually do it or not do it, especially if you are not around on site. But with the engineering controls, you have changed the physical environment, right? So that there will be a barrier between the worker and the hazard. So whether they like it or not, the barrier has been what instituted. That is why we are saying that with engineering controls, it tends to be more effective and then long lasting than the administrative control. Now we go to the personal protective equipment, the PPE. We are saying that a personal protective equipment is used as a temporary control or a last line of defense when other controls are not sufficient. We are the types of used in the organization will depend on the work environment, the working conditions, and the tasks that are being performed, and the tasks that are being performed. So, example is the ear plugs or the ear maps. We use it to protect what against excessive noise. So, against excessive noise, and then also the safety gloves, protection against toxic chemicals and electrical wires. Toxic chemicals and electrical wires. So, for instance, during the COVID period, how many people went to the bank and then they saw that people were using protective gloves or safety gloves? Did anybody experience that? They were all using the nose mask,
Yes, sir.
right? But yeah,
Yes,
when
sir.
you
Yes,
go to
sir.
the hospital, they were using both the nose masks and the safety gloves, right? So that is why we are saying that the type of PPE that we are going to use will actually depend on the work environment, the work conditions, and the tasks being performed. You cannot go and tell the banker that the COVID to put on safety shoes. No, the right thing to do was to put on the what? The nose mask. Okay, so that is the end for the physical hazard. So with the physical hazard, any contribution, any question, any
So,
contribution, Yvonne,
sir,
any contribution.
No, sir.
hello, sir.
We are waiting for a contribution.
Yeah, sir, please,
Any question?
with the physical hazard, the measures to control. We talked about administrative control and engineering control. So, can you suggest that
Okay.
the administrative control are measures set to prevent the hazard before the person gets to site, while the engineering control are measures or strategies kept to control the hazard while at site?
Hello.
Exactly. That is so insightful.
Mhm.
Once again, there is no wrong or right answer. It depends on how you defend it on the paper. But thank you for your contribution. This is so insightful. Okay, so we move to the second one, which is the chemical hazard. The chemical hazard. We are saying that a chemical hazard occurs when workers or other persons are exposed to hazardous chemical substances. Hazardous chemical substances. I repeat, hazardous chemical substances in the workplace. Exposure can happen through inhalation, absorption through skin, swallowing, or injection. So chemical hazards are common in industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, laboratories, agriculture, and then what? Construction. So with very keen on the manufacturing and then the laboratories. They are the people that actually use a lot of chemicals. I don't know. When you go to North Carolina industrial area, you see this Lebanese companies. They actually use a lot of these chemicals. So let's check the health effect of chemical hazards. Chemical hazards can affect our health in two main ways. They can affect our health in two main ways. We have one, the acute health effect. The acute health effect. These occur immediately or shortly after the exposure. So sometimes, eh, sometimes some of the chemicals, when we say that when you inhale some of the chemicals, automatically you begin to vomit. I don't know if someone have experienced it before. You begin to actually vomit, and then some of the chemicals, when they touch your body, you get skin burns. You get it. You get skin burns immediately. So those ones are what the acute effect of what the chemical hazard. Anyone wants to ask a question? Elena.
Say an example of the chemical hazard is caustic soda used to make liquid soap.
Okay.
When if it touches your body, it itches. It becomes very hot and it itches. It can burn your skin even. And then
Exactly.
the acacia too. When you inhale it, it's very strong. So when you inhale it, you find it difficult to even breathe. So when you are doing those, you are working with those chemicals, you have to use nose masks to prevent those reactions.
Chlorine is also part.
Mariama, thank you. Chlorine is also fine. Thank you for your contribution. So, we are saying
But
that
there are certain spray, if you inhale it, you start to vomit.
exactly. Some of us we have allergies, so even petrol, when they park the car at the station, at the filling station, then there's a problem for us, especially if it's long journey. So we are saying that the health effects of chemical hazards are categorized into two. The acute health effect, that is what we just discussed. The exposure is immediate. And like you feel it, just as you are saying, the akesha, right? You feel it immediately. And then we have the chronic health effect. We are saying that this develop over a long period of time due to repeated or prolonged exposure. Something like cancer, liver damage. You know, sometimes you'll be working in an industry. You are not going to recognize realize immediately that your health is being what endangered. Maybe you are working with the chemicals, you think you are cool. Oh, I am the boss here. I know what to do. This one they are not that dangerous. Oh, the harm rate is 2%, 1%. Is the accumulation of them, right? The accumulation of them. Maybe who knows might actually have issues on your your liver. You get it. So with that one, you are not going to actually see, oh, you think you are okay. But after 7 years, 10 years of working with a company, you'll be like, well, I'm not feeling well. You go to the hospital and then you are diagnosed liver problems. I hope that is clear.
Yes,
Yosidi,
sir. Yes.
yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
thank you. So now we have to then find a means of what managing this chemical hazard. We have to find a means of managing this chemical hazard. So if we want to find a means, then we have to find an objective for managing what this chemical hazard. We are saying that the main objective of chemical hazard management is the systematic identification and investigation of harmful chemical risks. Right? So we have to actually go through a series of process to identify and then investigate what various effect or various harmful chemicals in the organization. So if you become a human resource manager or an OHS manager, and then you want to go and suggest to the board that, oh, this industry will use a lot of chemicals, and then it poses what threat in the form of a chemical hazard. However, we are supposed to manage it. Then the board will tell you, we have a lot of objectives to achieve. Why do you then want us to actually manage chemical hazard? Besides the employees, they can take care of themselves. Then you go with this objective, right? Okay. Then the second one is to reduce or prevent health damage caused by chemical hazards in the workplace. So we do chemical hazard management in order to identify and investigate what the harmful chemical risk, and also to reduce or prevent health damages caused by these chemical substances. We have already discussed the acute health effect of it and the chronic health effect of it. Now we are saying that managing, we have the objectives now. So managing what? Chemical health hazard in the organization. Organizations must establish chemical safety programs to protect workers. Chemical safety programs to protect what? Workers. Such programs should include education and training on chemical hazard,
Efe,
training on how to.
Efe.
Yvonne, you want to ask a question?
No,
Yvonne,
please.
Selena, Selena, you want to ask a question?
No, sir,
Okay.
sorry.
So okay. We are saying that organizations must actually establish chemical safety programs to protect workers. And then such programs should actually include education and training on chemical hazard, training on how to assess chemical exposure, and training on how to control chemical hazards. Then the workers should also understand the nature of the chemical hazards they work with. Someone, so let's say this Akasha that Selena spoke about. If you're employing someone in an industry where you are going to use Akasha, you don't just assume that they know that it is Akasha, right? You have to educate them, let them know that this is Akasha. When wrongly used, these are the repercussions. This is the risk involved if you don't use it well. And then this is how you can actually what? Handle it safely. So safe handling of chemicals. Safe handling of chemicals. We are saying that chemical hazard management must also cover safe storage of chemicals. And then they must also provide emergency response plans for spills or what? Exposure. There should also be proper transportation of chemical substances. And then how the chemicals are also going to be disposed should be of importance to us. The chemicals are very dangerous indeed. So, any questions up to this point? We all see the Yvonne, Selena, Michael, Manuela. Any questions up to this point? I need your feedback. Any questions?
So
Yvonne.
it's explainable. What you are saying, it's real. The experiences. That is why we've understood it.
Okay.
Everyday life, something. So that's why we are quiet.
Oh, okay. So now let's talk about the types of chemical hazards. We are saying that chemical hazards in the workplace can be grouped into three main types based on how workers are exposed and the health effects. Based on how workers are exposed and the health effects involved. So we have three main types of chemical hazard. The first one is that chemical hazard associated with ingestion of poisons. That is the first type of chemical hazard. This type of chemical hazard occurs when dangerous chemicals are swallowed either intentionally or accidentally. Either intentionally or accidentally. One of the biggest risks in workplace is workers not knowing what chemicals they are using. Back to the Akasha example. Back to the Akasha example. I think that chemicals not being properly stored or labeled. You cannot, let's say, the Akasha. You cannot keep buckets of Akasha, right? And then write H2O on it. No, you shouldn't do that. If not, you put the people at what? At risk. If not, you put the people at risk. That's what I am saying. We are saying that poor labeling and storage can lead to accidental ingestion, serious poison, or fatal outcomes. Someone is working on the construction site. I don't know what Akacha will be doing at the construction site, but presumably maybe they are going to use it, right? And then you write H2O or you write boldly what on it. The person is dying. The person needs water. When he looks at the left and right, he is not having any water. And he sees this gallon with water inscription. Automatically, the person will pour and drink. By the time we realize the damage has already been caused. So we are saying that there is a key prevention. So proper storage containers and clear labeling of chemicals are essential to prevent this type of hazard. So the type of chemical hazard that is associated with ingestion and poisoning, one way of preventing is that it should be stored or in appropriate containers, and then there should be clear what labeling. There should be clear labeling. Now we move to the second one. We move to the second one, which is health hazard associated with exposure to toxic fumes. Toxic fumes. Health hazard associated with toxic fumes. We are saying that this occurs when workers breathe in harmful gases, fumes or vapors released from chemicals. Released from chemicals. Such exposure happens when personal protective equipment is not used correctly. You have been given nose mask. You have been given nose mask, and then you tie the nose mask to your head. Meanwhile, you are working in a chemical setting where you know that you are exposed to what toxic fumes. You are exposed to toxic fumes. Okay, so we are saying that such exposure often happens when workers are not properly trained. The same implies to the Akasha example. So a clear example, a worker inhales toxic fume because protective masks were not worn properly. Just as I said, you've been given a protective mask. Instead of you to put it on your nose, you put it on your head. I don't know what sometimes the employees they intend to seek. Okay, so the last one, then we are done with the types of chemical hazards. I said there are three main types. Let me reiterate. We have the health hazard associated with ingestion of poison. Then the second one is associated with exposure to toxic fumes. And then the last one is associated with long-term exposure to chemicals. Long-term exposure to chemicals. Long-term exposure to chemicals. Some chemicals cause chronic health hazards, especially carcinogenic substances. Especially carcinogenic substances. We are saying that the key characteristics of this one is that there is no safe level of exposure. There is no safe level of exposure. Health effects develop slowly over many years. The one that I actually use the liver problem as an example, that you are working in the chemical industry, you've been there for 7 years, you think, oh, you are okay because you have never been endangered, you have never been admitted to the hospital or anything. So you think you are okay. Unbeknown to you, maybe you might be subject to the health hazard associated with long-term exposure to chemicals. And then some of the long-term effects may include cancer or chronic organ damage, the liver. That is what I was saying. Because of delayed effects. Because of delayed effects. Maybe the effects you might not see it immediately. So diagnosis may occur over a long exposure stretch. It may be difficult to link the illness to your workplace exposure. You see someone working in the chemical industry, 15 years, 20 years, he's in charge of chemical processing, maybe pouring and separation. All of a sudden, after 20 years, the person will be like, I am not feeling well, I am not feeling well. We cannot pinpoint the exact reason why the person is not feeling well. Unless maybe after diagnosis, then we know that it's a liver problem. Even with that one, attributing it to the 20 years of service in that chemical industry, it might be challengeable. It might be challengeable. So if you find yourself in such an industry, remember that you owe yourself a duty of care. Know what to do. Know what to do. In such industries, you have to actually be visiting the hospital regularly for checkups and other stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the hidden sources of chemical hazard. The hidden sources of chemical hazard. Chemical hazards are not only from substances stored or used directly. They can also be generated by fumes from machines and plants, wood dust, and industrial emissions. One of the reasons why it's not advisable to live close to an industrial, you might be exposed to chemical hazards, but you might think, oh, everything is okay. Everything is okay because you are not working directly in the company. So some of these chemical hazards are acid, paint, pesticides, just as my lady said, acacia and other stuff. Okay. Now let's talk about the measures to control chemical hazards. The measures to control chemical hazards. We have the engineering control method, or simply the engineering control. We are saying that engineering controls are physical or mechanical measures designed to eliminate or reduce exposure to hazardous chemicals. They are preferred because they do not depend on the worker behavior. I said it earlier on when we were discussing the physical hazard. And then also they provide long-term protection. They provide long-term protection. Examples of this engineering controls are mechanical ventilation systems, boom hose or exhaust systems, and then automation of chemical handling process. Right? So the one I was saying that the employer might be working over 20 years, is in charge of what? Pouring and separation of chemicals. Unbeknown to him, his health is at risk. So one of the engineering controls is that the chemical handling process should be what? Automated. Should be automated. The second one, under the chemical one, the chemical hazard, the second control is the administrative control. Is the administrative control. So we are saying that the administrative control for the chemical hazards are introduced when risks remain after high level controls such as elimination, substitution, or engineering controls have been applied. So if you are watching carefully, with the physical hazard, they recommended the first one being the administrative, then it came to the engineering. Then it came to the engineering. However, with the chemicals, they are saying that we should go with the engineering. If it tends to actually not achieve the stated purpose, then the administrative control should be what? Instituted. The administrative control can come in the form of organizational policy. It can come in the form of an organizational policy. So the last one is the PPE, the personal protective equipment. The personal protective equipment. Okay, they are saying that the PPE should be used as the last line of defense or a temporary or supplementary measure or a temporary or supplementary measure. PPE should not rely upon alone to control chemical hazards. So we are saying that is a lender of last resort, right? And then it should not be used or relied upon alone as a control measure. You are working in the chemical industry, and then when we ask you of how you are trying to actually control the hazards your employees are posed with, then you tell us that you've given them nose masks. Nose masks alone is not enough. Nose masks alone is not enough. Maybe you can add some chemical resistant gloves, right? You can add some chemical resistance gloves, and then you can also add advanced respiratory protective equipment. Advanced respiratory protective equipment. So this is it for the chemical hazard. Any questions for the chemical hazard? Any contributions? I need your contribution. Yvonne, Real CD, Benedict, Mariam,
Sir, to be
Sophia,
on the
Agnes.
safer side, sir. Hello.
I'm listening.
To be
I
on the
can hear
safer
you,
side,
Yvonne.
yes, to be on the safer side, when you are working in such organized industry, you shouldn't keep long there.
Exactly. That is
Yes.
why I kept reiterating 20 years, 20 years. Some of the
Yeah.
industries, eh, some
You
of the
shouldn't.
industries, yes, you can work in the, I don't blame some people too. Just as the last time I said, job security issues in Ghana, job security issues. So the person
Yeah, so
feels like,
you
oh,
die. You want to die before you leave the job.
no, you know how the ordinary Ghanaian thinks. Once he's making
Yes.
money, that is the ordinary Ghanaian perspective. Once they are making
So
their
you have to go regular checkups.
regular checkups, thank you, Agnes. But the thing is, the ordinary Ghanaian working in such industry is not making enough to actually cater for himself for checkup. And then maybe sometimes the companies also do not provide this health insurance benefits. When that is why I cited this industrial area. If you know that place very well, North Kaneshi, the JKs and stuff.
Yes.
When,
Yes.
when you go, it's cheap labor. It's cheap labor. You get it. So you, the person that you are being employed, you are being used. You are being paid 1,200. You cannot even complain about anything. They'll just push you, go to chemicals. Then you go because you don't have anything to do. You get it.
It's true.
That is it.
Yes,
So
sir.
they are. It looks like they are being oppressed to work. If they don't seek any education to upgrade and then leave the place, you see them. We all have people. They've been working over there 10 years, 5 years, making biscuits, rubbers, duraplast and stuff. You get it. But some of them, when you see them, you ask, hey, is this the macho man who started working at duraplast 10 years ago? All the body is gone. You get it. So
Yes, sir.
any other contribution for the chemical hazard?
Sir, hello,
Mariam,
sir. Please, I
Mariam,
want to
I can
ask
hear you.
why. Okay, please, why is it that the fishermen they use chemicals for fishing?
This is a very good question. Do you have fishing background?
I don't know why they do that. That's what I'm asking.
In their line of operation, in their line of operation, I think it helps boost their productivity. It helps boost their productivity. I don't know for them. I'm not so inclined in fishing business. That is why we have a fishing background. But from an objective look, I think it helps them boost their productivity. Though it poses threats to us. As nature, we are interdependent. Sometimes we have to hurt others to actually get what we want. You get it?
Mm, yeah.
Yes. So that is why there are regulations to govern what they do. We have the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture or something like that. I know they are aware of that. So they have some regulations. Sometimes they tell them that they shouldn't go for fishing for 4 months or something so that nature can restore itself. I don't know if you've heard something like that before.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, miss.
Yes.
So they are using it for
Any
mass production
contribution
or
to
what?
the biology? They are using it for what?
Mass production,
Mass
like
production.
like mass, like to catch the fishes in abundance or what?
Yeah, that one I cannot state emphatically because even if you go to Elmina, if you go to the Elmina beach and then the Futu around that side, you see if it was farming, I would have said peasant farming. Some people
Mm.
just go, they are just doing it for just direct consumption. They still also use it. So not necessarily large scale fish farming or something like that. It's applicable both ways. Mariama, are you okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Yvonne, I need your contribution. Oh.
Sir, I made a small contribution already on
Okay,
that.
thank you. So,
Okay.
okay. So, Michael Entry, any contribution for us?
No, sir.
Moma, Joaquima, any contribution? Michael, the platform is yours.
I said I had no contribution yet.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So that means we can move on to the biological. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
when is the biological hazard? It actually refers to living organisms or substances produced by living organisms that can cause harm to human health. That can cause harm to human health. So this includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, bacteria, viruses, and then fungi. We are saying that biological hazards are common in healthcare facilities, laboratories, waste management centers, and food processing industry, and also agricultural industry. So we want to see how this hazard or how these organisms tend to enter the human body, how they tend to enter the human body. They're saying that there are three main routes. There are three main routes that these viruses, fungi, bacteria, how they get to the human body. One is the respiratory system. One is the respiratory system. COVID-19, it was a virus, right? COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I need yes.
Yeah.
So yes. How was it transmitted? Through inhalation or
So it was an
Yvonne?
airborne disease.
Yes, airborne through inhalation. So it ties back to the respiratory system. And then also contact with body fluids. Contact with body fluids. So I'm explaining the ways in which this biological hazard, that's the bacteria, the fungi, and the viruses, how they get into the human body through what contact with body fluids, such as blood. Someone, someone has HIV. HIV is also a virus. Someone has HIV. You go and then you do whatever you want to do. You have a tendency of actually contracting that one virus, despite the existence of antiretroviral drugs and other modern ways of preventing it. You are still exposed. So, and then another round is contact with contaminated objects. Contact with contaminated objects, such as needles, equipment, and then what other tools. I hope it's understandable. Feedback is key. LCD.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's talk about the sources of biological hazard. The sources. We have infected patients. Back to the HIV example. If you have it and you go and do the doer, the other person also is exposed to actually getting it. Right? And then asymptotic carriers, people who carry disease but show no symptoms. Back to the HIV, the gentleman, when they see the fine ladies, oh, this one is so fine, this one cannot be killed. That's your that at your own risk. You go and then you contract it. And then something like vectors such as mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito, they will actually transmit what the uh the virus to you. Is it plasmolysis or something? Those with good science background tell us the female Anopheles mosquito, they what when they bite us, what gets into our body? Marama, Emanuela, you
Sir,
want to help me?
the word you mentioned, the plasma, that is it.
Plasmolysis.
Right.
Okay. So now I am giving you some sources of biological hazard. This one, when it drops in the exam, the simple infected person, asymptotic carriers, and then the vectors. You just put your hyphen and write mosquitoes. That is all. So now we have to. So the factors that influence these infections, the factors that influence this infection. You're saying that whether a person becomes infected, right, will depend on the number of organisms present in the environment. Will depend. You cannot tell me that there is only one mosquito in the environment, and then 10 people are going to get malaria. It's possible, but the tendency is low. By the time the mosquito moves from 1 to 3, it has been killed already. So now let's talk about the types of biological hazards and how we can care for them. The types of biological hazards and how we can actually care for them. They are saying that biological hazards expose workers to harmful microorganisms that can cause infection and diseases. The risks depend on how exposure occurs and how control measures are applied and how control measures are applied. So the types of biological hazard, you have the first one, exposure to blood and contaminated items. Exposure to blood and contaminated items. They are saying that this type of biological hazard occurs when the employees come into contact with blood or when they touch contaminated surfaces or equipment. And then it is very common in hospitals. See, someone is pregnant, the person before pregnancy was not having HIV, but after they check and they'll be like, oh, madam, you have contracted HIV. The person knows that he hasn't done anything wrong, but maybe due to the negligence of one leg, I don't know, the person has actually contracted this disease through maybe infection or other stuff. So the type of biological hazard, the first one is that exposure to blood and contaminated items. So how do we then care and control for this one? You can use gloves and protective clothing. We can do regular cleaning and disinfection of surfaces. We can also do proper disposal of sharp and contaminated materials. Mamines, if you have used the syringe and then there is an issue with it, please dispose it. Don't put it down that I'll dispose it later. Mistakenly, you might use it on another person and then there will be issues. The second one is the exposure to airborne biological agents. Exposure to airborne biological agents. This occurs when the worker inhales microorganisms released through coughing, sneezing, or talking. Such exposure is common when working near infected employees or patients. Back to COVID-19. Because of this, that is why social distancing, right? So how do we then care or control for this? We can use our face masks and then our respiratory equipment. We can encourage proper coughing and sneezing etiquette. You are in an office working with somebody, you contacted cold, and then you open your mouth 200 and 360 degrees without no handkerchief, and then you cough on the person. You are putting the person at risk. So desist from it. Adopt proper coughing and sneezing etiquette. If you feel you want to sneeze, please excuse the people in the room. If you feel you want to cough, excuse the people in the room. And then isolate infected individuals where necessary. If you are the human resource manager of the company and you realize that no, this lady, the issue is contaminatable, right? Just isolate the person. You can give the person a separate office for now. Eben, your question. Eben, I can see your hands up. Your question, Eben, please.
Yes, sir. I want to ask if those those smokers, if they pop this thing and then they release it, and some of the smoke gets into somebody, is it under the biological or chemical?
Yes, it's under biological. We are talking about inhaling, exposure to airborne biological agents.
Okay.
Exposure to airborne biological agents. Have you heard this thing? Second-hand smokers are at risk more than the smokers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, second-hand smokers are at risk more than the smokers.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello, class. Please just give me 2 minutes for me to cough, just as I said. Okay, 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. I'll be back.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. I'll be
Sir, we
back.
can't see you, so you can call.
No, no, you don't. You don't have to see me. No, I am in a room with people, so I have to practice what I am
All right.
teaching.
Yes.
Okay.
Walk the talk. Walk the talk.
Hey, sir, is everything all right?
Hello, hello, I am back. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Where
Can
did we
hear
get?
you.
Where did we get? Guys, where did we get to? Someone was asking a question. Ebenezer.
Yes, sir. I asked about those smokers.
Yeah, right.
Whether they are the way they brings out the smoke, it will affect us, and that will be a biological or chemical. And he said it's a biological because we inhale it.
Yeah, that was what I was asking you. That have you heard second-hand smokers are more dangerous than the smokers?
Yes, sir. Sometimes you can see it on the billboard, telling us that those behind those smoking are more affected than those smokers.
Yeah. That is it. So now then we see that how do we actually control that issue? I explained that we can use the face masks and then the respirators. We can encourage proper coughing, just like I went out to go and cough, right? So now the third one is exposure to environmental biological contaminants. Environmental biological contaminants. Biological contaminants may be present in ventilation systems, water supplies, and food. They are saying that poor maintenance of these systems can lead to widespread exposure. However, the good thing is that we can control it. So how do we then control it? We have to do regular inspection and cleaning of ventilation systems. It's not that you set up a ventilation system for 5 years and then there have not been any maintenance work on it. And then proper water treatment and testing. If you are providing water to your employees, you have to make sure that it's clean, right? And then safe food handling and storage practices. The companies that normally give their employees food, we have to ensure this. And then routine environmental monitoring, not occasional ones, routine environmental uh, monitoring. Now let's check the control measures for biological hazard. The control measures for biological, the control measures for biological hazard. The first, they are saying that control of biological hazard follow the hierarchy of controls, with emphasis on eliminating or reducing exposure at the design and system level before relying on worker behavior or PPE, just like the chemical one. So this is what they are suggesting. You can go with the engineering controls. They are saying that the engineering controls are the most preferred method of controlling what biological hazards. They actually involve built-in protection. Actually involve built-in protection in buildings, building protection in buildings, equipment or supplies. Controlling hazard at the design stage. Controlling hazard at the design stage. It also involves reducing exposure without depending on human behavior. So from all what we are discussing, you can see that the engineering control is very similar. So let's see the examples of engineering control for biological hazard. We are saying that ventilation systems and construction skills that create negative pressure rooms to prevent the spread of infectious agents. Biosafety cabinets or hoods with specialized ventilation systems. So the key point is that engineering controls provide continuous protection once installed. Let's go to the administration. So with the administrative controls, Administrative controls involve changes in work procedures and processes to reduce exposure to biological hazards. They do not remove the hazard, but can significantly reduce risk, and are implemented when engineering controls are not what sufficient. So if you are a manager and then you are faced with issue relating to biological hazard, your first option is to go for engineering controls. And then if you realize that they are not sufficient, then you can actually deploy administrative control measures in addition to it, right? So example, if you forget anything, under administrative control, don't forget training of workers, right? So there should be training on biological hazard risks, and then also policies regarding regular hand washing. Now let's go to the almighty one, the PPE. I think that is the most common one across board. So we are saying that PPE is required when biological hazards still pose a risk. Engineering and administrative controls cannot fully eliminate exposure. Always remember that PPE is the last line of defense. Example of PPE for biological hazard: latex gloves, appropriate masks or the nose masks. That is the most common PPE you can ever find. And then also eye protection, such as goggles or face shield. Remember the COVID time, people went to buy 50,000 pieces of face shields. They were all examples of what? PPE. So this point, do you have any questions for me for the biological hazard? Any question, any contribution? Even Agnes, Michael, I need your contribution on this one, biological hazard, before we go to the next one. Yvonne, Ebenezer,
Yes, sir.
Emanuela, Yvonne, contribution, biological hazard.
Please, I've understood it.
Okay. Any
Yeah.
questions? Any question? Okay, that means I can move to the next one. Ergonomic hazard. Ergonomic hazard. We are saying that ergonomic hazard are workplace factors that can harm the musculoskeletal system. It's okay, so the musculoskeletal system, which includes the muscles, the bones, the joints, and the tendons. These hazards occur when the type of work, body pressure, and the work environment put excessive strain on the body. So it's actually a workplace hazard that actually harms our skeletal system. Ergonomic hazards are injuries that employees sustain gradually, not sudden. And then they are often difficult to actually detect. They are often difficult to detect in the initial stages. Once they are difficult to detect, that means they have some short-term effects and long-term effects as well. Okay, so the short-term effect of ergonomic hazard is that you have sore muscles. You have sore muscles. You can also have body pains. You can have body pain. And then the long-term effect is that you can have joint problems. When you grow, you see these old people, mostly they have issues with their joints, right? You can have chronic back pains. The back pain that when you treat, it never goes away. Then you can have the musculoskeletal system disorder. So we are saying that long-term exposure to ergonomic hazard causes serious health problems. So if you are in an organization and you realize that you are at risk from a long-term ergonomic hazard, then my dear brother or sister, try and advise yourself. Try and advise yourself. So this is an example. We are saying that in an organization like Zoom Lion, some workers handle refuse, which involves lifting and transferring loads. Other staffs prepare payroll using computers, which involves long hours of sitting. If tables and chairs are not properly designed for long sitting, then the workers place strain on their back. The workers will place strain on what? Their back due to the activities. I've given you two key activities. And then this may eventually lead to serious health problems. Assuming you are working for Zoom Lion for over 20 years, yours is just to pick the refuse, lift, and transfer. My dear brother, my dear sister, you have a tendency of actually getting a chronic back pain, which is a long-term ergonomic issue. So advise yourself. Now, let's see how we are going to control or the control measures for ergonomic hazards. The control measures for ergonomic hazards. We are saying that ergonomic hazards are best controlled by redesigning work and workstation to reduce strain on the body. To reduce strain on the body. Control measures are grouped into administrative, engineering and personal protective equipment. So now let's focus on the administrative. So if you are following the class carefully, you get to know that all the hazards, one way or the other, there is an administrative control. One way or the other, there is an administrative control, there is an engineering control, and then there is a PPE. So now let's check the administrative control for ergonomic hazard. So we are saying that administrative controls reduce ergonomic risk by changing how work is organized and performed. They do not remove the hazard completely, but reduce exposure. So this is an example of administrative controls of ergonomic hazard. Providing regular break periods to reduce short-term strain. To reduce short-term strain. To actually reduce short-term strain. Adjusting the pace of work to reduce physical exertion, the Zoom Lion example I gave. Rotating employees performing repetitive or strenuous work. The job is so difficult for one person to do, at least employ 2 or 3 people so that they can actually run a shift. So in this regard, we are saying that administrative controls depends on good supervision and worker compliance. It depends on good supervision and worker compliance. Now the next one, engineering controls. Engineering controls. Engineering controls deals with the economic hazard at the source and are the most effective effective. They involve physical changes to tasks, tools, or work environment. So examples of engineering control for ergonomic hazard. They are saying that using mechanical equipment for heavy lifting. The Zoom Lion example, at least there could be some machines doing the lifting so that maybe the people will just be transferring it via vehicle. You understand it? You are saying that engineering controls reduce strain without relying on worker behavior. That is the key point. Up to this point, any question? Yvonne,
No, sir.
Emanuela, Ernest, Ebenezer, Michael.
Yes, sir. With regard to this ergonomic hazard, the way we sit at workplaces, can that one cause that? And the way we use our there's the mobile phones and other stuff, can they cause this skeletal thing that we are talking about here?
Yeah, the way we can actually cause it. I cited an example. So the more you sit, the more you have the tendency of getting this back pain issue.
Okay.
Is your question answered?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that means I can continue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're talking about the engineering controls, right? Then the PPE. The PPE. We are saying that is the least effective for ergonomic hazard because workers are still exposed to the risk. It is mainly used as a supportive measure. So don't go and use only that one. No, it is used as what? As a supportive what? Measure. So examples of ergonomic hazards. Examples of PPE for ergonomic hazard. We can use the knee pads for workers laying carpet, right? You can put some pads on your knee so that you will not get that hurt. And then anti-vibration gloves for workers using powdered hand tools. Gradually, we are getting there. Gradually. So now let's talk about the next hazard, which is the psychological hazard. The psychological hazard. A psychological hazard refers to any workplace factor. Psychological hazard refers to any workplace factor that negatively affects the mental health of and well-being of employees. They negatively affect the mental health and well-being of employees. This hazard overwhelm an employee's ability to cope, emotional stability, and the capacity to work in a healthy and safe manner. So in simple terms, we can say that psychological hazards make work mentally stressful or emotionally what? Or emotionally what? Harmful. So let's see some psychological hazards in the workplace. We are saying that psychological hazards include workplace interactions, work design, and management practices that can harm employees' mental health and physical health. So, according to the International Labour Organization, psychological hazards arise from workplace interactions that influence perceive how employees perceive and experience their work. So, we can therefore say that psychological hazards come from poor work design, poor management practices, and then poor organization of work, and then poor organization of what? Of work. These factors cause both mental and physical harm to employees. So we have to conduct risk assessment for psychological hazard. We are saying that employees are required to assess psychological risk. Employers, so my future HRs, you are what required to assess psychological risk in the environment. You also have to identify how work conditions affect employees' health. How work condition affects employees' health. So during the risk assessment, the employees should be allowed to express their opinions freely. Don't go and oppress them. It's an assessment that you are making. Just give them the room to say whatever they want to say. The workers should talk openly about issues affecting their mental health. They should talk openly about issues affecting their mental health or their mental well-being. About their mental well-being. Okay. So then we've given what the employer should do. So you, the employee, we are also saying that you also have a responsibility. You should also inform workers or the employer or the employer's representative about any health disorder that affects your ability to actually what? To work. Or any weakness or failures in protective what? Measures. This will help the employers to take early corrective action. To take early corrective what? Measures. So now let's focus on the challenges in managing psychological hazards. The challenges in managing psychological hazards. So we are saying that psychological hazards are very difficult to detect. They are impossible to measure. They are impossible to what? To measure using fixed standards or limits. They are often hidden until serious harm occurs. They are often hidden until serious harm what occurs. So because of this, organizations must ensure confidentiality in data collection. Don't go and don't go and release information of one employee to what? To the other, particularly when it relates to mental health. Then the organization must also protect employees from victimization. They must protect the employees from what? Victimization. Then they should also use what? Collected information to improve the work environment and not necessarily punish workers. You don't take information to punish them. You've given them the opportunity to talk about what they want to talk about, free space. Don't go and use that as a point for decision making. The data collection was only meant to what? Improve work what? Environment. Guys, any question up to this point? Any question? Yvonne?
Sir. Hello, sir.
Mike, you want to ask a question?
Yes, sir. In the book, I've seen substance abuse.
Mike, I can't
Does
hear
it
you.
relate? So I'm saying in the book, I saw substance abuse.
Substance
Does it
abuse,
relate to? Yes. Does it relate
psychological.
to? Yes.
Yes.
Does it relate to drug abuse?
Does it relate to what?
Drug abuse.
Substance abuse and drug abuse.
Yes.
They are the same thing.
They are the same thing. Thank you, madam.
They're the same thing, please.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what I always advocate for. It's always good to read the book, right? But you know, this one is trying to make everything simple so that even if you forget what is in the book, you can remember some of the examples what we are citing so that you can actually write something. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So finally we are there. What time are you closing? 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are on the last one, the mechanical hazard. The mechanical hazard. So we are saying that mechanical hazards are physical dangers arising from machine, from the name, mechanical, from machine, tools, or equipment that can cause injury to what? To workers. They come from machines or the machine part, the tools or the equipment you use, the machine, how the machines are what? Treated. So we can say that mechanical hazards are mainly associated with power-driven machines. The key word is power-driven machines. It might drop in an objective, power-driven machines. So whether automated or operated, whether automated or manually. Okay, so let's continue about the sources of Let's talk about the sources of mechanical hazards. The sources of mechanical hazards. We are saying that mechanical hazards arise from powered machines, industrial plants. Oh, please mute yourself, Veronica Kumasi. So they arise from powered machines, industrial plants, and machines, manual or human operation of tools and what equipment. They may also occur during normal machine operation, as intended by what the manufacturer. So let's focus on some examples of mechanical hazards. Time is not on our side. Some examples of mechanical hazards. An example is contact or entanglement with unguarded moving parts of a machine. So other mechanical hazards include the risk of crashing, smashing, friction, and entanglement. So let's go to the last aspect of the lecture for today. The controls. Let's focus on the controls. So with mechanical hazard, we are saying that we can use administrative controls. We can use administrative controls to reduce risk by changing what work procedure and managing how tasks are performed. They do not remove the hazard but help limit what exposure. Something like writing operating procedures, like how to use the machine. It will actually save some people from actually getting injured. Once again, administrative controls rely on worker compliance and supervision. Now, with the second one being the engineering controls, we are saying that engineering controls are the most effective method of controlling mechanical hazard because they deal with the hazard at its source, just like we LCD explained from the beginning. So this is an example. Elimination of mechanical hazard where possible. Isolation of hazards using what safety interlocks. So once it's damaged, just eliminate it or isolate it. Now we have the almighty PP. Almighty PP. Before that, I want to say that engineering controls for mechanical hazards do not rely on human behavior. They reduce risk without depending on human behavior. So the almighty PPE, we are saying that PPE is the least. So if you are following clear, you get to know that at any point in time, the PPE is either the least or it's just required to supplement another control method. Please keep this. It's either the least effective control or just required to supplement another control. Right? So examples of the PPE we can use to actually help this mechanical hazard is the gloves, the welding mask, and the safety glasses, and the ear mask. So what I want you to take away from the class is that once there is an existence of hazard in the organization, regardless of the category of that hazard, there is a way to control it. There is a way to control it, being it an administrative, an engineering way, or the almighty PPE. Guys, this is where we end the lecture today. If you have any question, you can raise your hand. I'll give you the platform, then you say it. If you have any suggestion, you can bring it on board. You are all welcome. Michael, Yvonne, any suggestions?
So I want to ask, so with this the court of control, there it's only with the physical, it's only with the physical um control that the PPE comes first, the administrative.
Your question again.
I said with all the controls of the others. I'm saying so the PPE only with the physical hazard, the control of the physical hazard that the PPE comes first. all that control, the PPE comes last.
No, you did not get it. The PPE
Yeah,
is
okay.
last also under the physical.
The physical
It's,
too.
yes. So PPE
Okay.
is just the last one. It's not the most effective one. It's either supplementing what
Okay.
the ones we have already instituted. That is how it works. Okay.
Mm.
What time are you supposed to close? 4, right? Hello?
Let's say 4.
Close 4.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
4.
so it's a pleasure having you guys.
Hello,
It's a pleasure having you guys. Hello.
say,
Any question?
I have a question.
Veronica.
You said the
Okay.
PPE is very is the almighty, meaning it's very important. Why is it very
No,
important?
no. I am not saying it's the Almighty. I just refer to that Almighty because that is what most of us know. During the
Okay,
COVID time, PPE.
okay. Thank you.
So, in the absence of any questions, I move for the closure of the meeting. Have a nice day, guys.
Same to you, sir. And thank you.
Hey,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
sir.
You have a nice day too. Bye bye.